me at Bradford, and this is my informational speech. I'm going to start briefly by talking about, quote unquote, the American dream. For I'm sure most of us in this room, you grow up as a child, you're taught, go to school, make good grades. From good grades, you graduate high school, go to college, or if you have any other form, military is always a great choice after that. But usually, goal is make money. That's how you get the American dream. That's how you get the White House, picket fence, 2 dogs, support all the kids and the husband and wife. You need money. But where does it start? It starts with that education that you have to get as a child. Now, as good as it sounds, the American dream, a lot of people aren't living the American dream because it's sad to say, but in this world, especially in the United States, poverty is an extreme problem in our cities. Poverty, not just speaking of people's money, finances, but in the education system. Children in the education system do not grow up with the same chances as their counterparts when they do not have the money that they need. So I will start by giving you a brief overlook on poverty. Give me one moment.
Mama didn't let me have a turn.
Sorry about that.
Papa didn't let me have a turn.
So starting with poverty, in the United States alone, from 1959 until 2013, poverty has risen. Over 5 million people in the United States are considered impoverished. Of course, most people know that means that they cannot live within their financial means. Now, there are 2 types of poverty that I like to classify. There's situational. Some people, you happen to lose your job, you happen to get into a circumstance that you just cannot afford the things that you need in life. But there's also, which is the more predominant problem, generational poverty. I apologize. Generational poverty is something that sadly you cannot control. You cannot control who your parents are, you cannot control the situation that you're born in, but sadly you happen to become part of the statistics of being in poverty. And the biggest effects that it's having on America right now is that taxpayers, sadly they have to make up for the people who cannot afford more, but even though it's not their fault. And then also, just in general, not being able to pay for things that you need. You're not able to buy things from the economy. The economy is also suffering because of the people that are in poverty. So, what does poverty have to do with education? Once again, with funding. If there's less school funding, there's lower quality of education. You cannot afford the teachers that you need to teach the children. You can also not afford the books that you need for your classrooms. So overall, you need the money for schooling, of course, if you want to be successful. Now, the quality of education. If you have lower quality of school, then you have a lower chance of attending college. Ultimately, like I said, it's actually proven that those who obtain a bachelor's degree make 2 times more than their counterparts who only have a high school diploma. That overall shows you that not attending college gets you a lower paying career. You need college if you want to make money. And of course, if you don't make enough money, that leads to the last part. You have a higher chance of being in poverty. Now, there's a famous writer, actually, who has a lot to say on education. If you look him up, Eric A. Hanushik, I hope I'm not butchering his name. He says, quality of schooling has a clear impact on both individual earnings and growth of the overall economy. It goes hand in hand. If you make more money, the economy grows. If everyone can do that, sadly, everyone cannot. That's why we do have the problems that we have nowadays. So when it comes down to schooling, let's talk about schools and the system. I'm a mother too, so of course now I'm even more into school. I had to worry about that now because by the time my sons reach school, I want to know what they have to look forward to. So back in 1965, President Lyndon B. Johnson created the Elementary Secondary Education Act, also known as the ESEA Act. Its purpose was to serve grants to lower income students so that way they can have a better chance at having quality education. Well, in 2001, President Bush came along and made the No Child Left Behind Act. I'm not sure if anyone has heard of it. It has been popular to us. The whole purpose of that was to provide education for all students and close the gap between the low-income and minority students to their counterparts who did have either higher income or were not considered a minority. Now, with the No Child Left Behind Act, this is President Bush, quote himself, When I was the governor of Texas, I didn't like it one bit when I go to schools in my state and realized that children were not learning so they could realize their God-given potential. I didn't like it because I knew the future of our society depended upon a good, sound education. And it sounds good. The No Child Left Behind Act, I'm not gonna lie, when I first started researching it, it sounds amazing to give children of lower income that chance that they need in life to do better. Why wouldn't it work? Well, it has a few issues with the No Child Left Behind Act. President Bush did try that. With the No Child Left Behind Act, the purpose of it is in order for them to make things equal for students, they set bars for all of the schools to achieve. Each year from 3rd grade to 8th grade, students have to take a mandatory test once a year and then once in high school. If they do not, the school as a whole meet the system requirements, they then, by the way, I apologize, it focuses on only math and reading with these tests. If they do not achieve the standards, they have 2 years to then try to come up in their grading. If they do not come up within their grading, they do get state help for another 2 years. That's a maximum of 4 years that they have to get the school systems up to par. If they do not, they face the chances of restructuring, state takeover, charter schools, or dissolution, which also means just shut down the schools. Now, the problem with the No Child Left Behind Act, for one, the system of tests. They only focus on reading and math. With reading and math, of course, you know numbers and you have to be able to read. But there are so many other subjects to focus on. We still have sciences, we still have history, we still art and music, things that are being taken away from our schools are now being taken away because they would like to focus more solely on what they have to focus on, which is reading and math. And also, the time requirements that they have, 2 to 4 years for improvement, that's a little harsh only because this is a newer law and they should give it more time to run its course. And many teachers are now being put out of jobs because they're not able to meet the requirements of the No Child Left Behind Act. And as far as changing, there was Secretary of the Education, his name is Arn Duncan, I apologize. And he proposes that we need a No Child Left Behind Act. His proposition is that for all of us to start focusing more on our early childhood education so that way our children can be able to flourish from childhood into adulthood. He is also with the Obama Administration Act, and henceforth why I put the Obama quote. If we make high quality preschool available to every child, not only will we give our kids a safe place to learn and grow while their parents go to work, we will give them the start they need to succeed in school, earn higher wages, and form more stable families and homes. Yes, from Obama himself. With the Obama administration, they also highlighted that there are only 3 out of 10 4-year-olds who are considered to be in a high quality facility. 3 out of 10, that's 30% of our youth that are receiving high quality education. That right there is setting the other 70% up to have a better chance once they do reach kindergarten, which further trickles down to all the further years up until 12th grade. If they do not have the proper preparations now, by the time 12th grade comes, the chances of being able to take the SATs or the ACTs and pass with the reading and the math assignments are much less likely, and therefore college attendance is much less likely, which further leads to less income, which leads to poverty. And once again, Eric A. Hanushik said it is in their income, not their income, while in school or based off their first job. Instead, it's their income over their working life that makes the difference. So the 4 Ps that we need to follow that I believe to enhance the chances for our youth. Once again, we can't just focus on our kids because many people may be able to handle the finances for their families, but thinking about the kids in poverty, because as much as they're not our responsibility financially, they are the future leaders of our world. And the first thing we can do is press the issue. We have to make sure as parents, as aunts, as uncles, big brothers, sisters, or even guardians, just to make sure that the curriculum for schools are up to par, make sure that children are getting the help that they need as a counterpart part is not all on the schools. Parents have to make sure that they play a part also. You have to prepare the children. Preparing the children starts from pre-K, as President Obama said himself, but it starts even sooner, even if they're in daycares. If the sooner you can start, the better you can start. Prevent poverty, that comes along with, in time, of course, preparing with a proper education for our youth. And then secondly, pave the path of success for all of our youth to have a fair chance in life. These are all my references. Okay. Does anyone have any questions?
Yeah. Now, this No Child Left Behind, I've heard of it, but I didn't know it actually went into effect. Now, this is nationwide, correct?
Yes, with the No Child, it's actually been taking toll on a few cities, even from where I'm from. In Philadelphia, they had a total of, I believe, 1 year, they were looking at 20-some schools to shut down because they were not reaching the standards that they needed to. Class attendance was even low, and then we did have a lot of charter schools come up in Philadelphia, but when there's such a big shutting down, then you had to start merging schools, and then with inner cities, you had to start worrying about gang-related problems because you have all those schools coming together. It's definitely nationwide, and it's happening.
What constitutes this higher level of pre-K standards for the 30%?
For higher quality, well, I did look that up also,
Yeah, what
because
do
to
you take
know,
into consideration?
for higher quality, they look more so, of course, cleanliness and the up to par, how it looks, the appearance, but more so this teaching staff, the degrees that they obtain, being able to not just teach your child, but also be aware and alert of your child, their perception to things, making sure that they're actually learning, making sure that if they're not learning, how can they better teach them so that they can learn, just attacking it earlier while they're children rather than just brushing it off while they're just being kids. They actually pay attention to the child and their growth as an individual.
Okay.
Any other questions? Yes?
So, do you think that they should scrap the whole No Child Left Behind, or do you think there's certain little things they could tweak to make it better?
I think like I said, the idea of it is ideal. It's definitely a few things they could tweak. They could definitely, as far as testing, not just focus only on math and reading. There are other subjects out there, and they focus on just taking a test. Just taking a test doesn't mean that you learn the material, it means you just learn how to take the test. So to me, I feel like that's not fair because there's plenty of intelligent individuals who just don't know how to take a test. And therefore in society, they can't make it because they don't know how to take a test. So I think it's just definitely tweak how they're grading and how they're testing and focus on everything rather than just two certain subjects. Anyone else?